I work nights, and my wife, Rachel, works during the day. Her job's pretty male-dominated, though there are a few women working in support roles, office staff and the parts department, mostly. We've been together since we were 17, and now we're in our 40s with kids. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of our family life right now, but it's worth mentioning that she only recently started this job, so these new workplace dynamics are a fresh development. Lately, Rachel's been hanging out more with her female coworkers after work, not just once in a while, either. Her shift ends around 5, but she's been getting home around 7 or 8. A couple of times, she even crashed at one of their places after drinking. That caught me off guard, since she's usually super responsible and never really drank in public before. Still, I wasn't too worried. Last night, I was off work and home by myself. I went to bed around 3 a.m., like I usually do. Then I got woken up by the glow of her phone screen. I couldn't tell if she was texting or just scrolling, but she wasn't exactly hiding it from me, so I figured it was probably nothing shady. But then, she got up and started getting ready for work, even though her shift doesn't start until 8. I asked her about it, and she said yeah, she knew, but she was going on a walk with some coworkers. Thing is, Rachel's a diesel engine mechanic, and she looked a little too dressed up for a casual walk or even a normal day at work. She left around 4 a.m., probably got to her friend's place by 4:30. It was still dark out, drizzling, and barely 45 degrees. Not exactly ideal weather for a walk, especially in Arizona where nobody really wears raincoats. Also, she drives a truck and I've got a car. At 5 a.m., I texted her asking if I could use the truck to make a dump run. No reply. 15 minutes later, I called her. She picked up and said they were still out walking. Then she told me I could pick the truck up at her job site. If it hadn't been raining, I might have checked to see if her hair was wet, like if she'd taken a second shower. But I didn't. See, I have this tendency to overanalyze things. It's just how my brain works. I also struggle a bit with reading social cues, so sometimes I don't know if I'm just being paranoid. But something about all this didn't sit right with me. So I decided to talk to her. Straight up. I asked to see her phone. She tried to dodge the question, then demanded to see mine. I handed it over right away, password and all. I've got nothing to hide, barely have time to breathe, let alone cheat. When I checked her messages, it didn't look like anything had been deleted. But one conversation that had caught my eye earlier? It was gone. Just vanished. That's when my gut really started twisting. So I called the guy I suspected. Handed her the phone and told her I wanted to see their chat history. She played it off like she didn't know what I was talking about, said she didn't understand why the phone company even had a record of the messages. But I knew she'd messaged him right before she left home. And again when she got back. Even though she had told me she was in Vegas. Instead of explaining, she acted confused. Then she stormed upstairs and wouldn't say another word to me. That was it. I felt like someone had knocked the wind out of me. So I started packing. Told her I was leaving, grabbed my stuff, and walked out. Later, I spoke to a police investigator, just looking for advice on how to handle the whole thing. He told me something that really stuck. When it comes to these kinds of betrayals, especially infidelity, don't expect a full confession. People rarely give you the whole truth, even if they admit part of it. And if they're still actively cheating, they'll almost never tell you everything. He said if you're in that kind of situation, it's a massive breach of trust. You've got to seriously think about legal steps or big changes. What you're really after is information. Something you can use, if and when you need to. Start the confrontation by acting like you already know more than they think. Let them believe the truth is already out there. But don't reveal what you actually know. This is poker, and you don't show your hand. Also, don't count on finding anything on their phone. If they're not an idiot, they've already deleted or hidden it. Your best shot is proving what's not there. Missing texts, no calls, stuff that makes it obvious they were probably with that person. You've got to pull phone records from your provider. Look for gaps, holes in the timeline where no communication shows up. That's your red flag. And when you confront them, demand the phone. They'll probably freak out and demand to see yours, make counteraccusations, try to flip the script. Be ready for it. Rachel did exactly that. When I asked for her phone again, Rachel claimed she didn't know my passcode and insisted I give it to her. That's the thing about people hiding something. They're way more afraid of what you might find on their phone than what they might find on yours. What stood out to me was how little interest she showed in what I had on mine. She barely glanced at my messages and didn't even bother checking my photo gallery, which is usually where sketchy stuff tends to be hiding. Instead, she kept her eyes locked on my hands, watching as I casually scrolled through a bunch of harmless conversations. She even said, "See? I don't know what you think I'm up to." To dig a little deeper, I opened her phone app, typed in the guy's number, and tapped the SMS icon. No messages. Nothing. I backed out and showed her the contact, asking her why there were no messages showing. She said, plain as day, that they'd never communicated. But I wasn't buying it. I told her that over the past month alone, she'd exchanged more than 900 messages with him. I pressed her again. Where did all those messages go? At first, she kept playing the innocent act. But deep down, I think she realized I was telling the truth. Eventually, she admitted she'd deleted the messages, but she still didn't come clean about everything. Turns out, those texts were about her wanting a divorce, something she wasn't ready to tell me just yet. I didn't lay all my cards on the table. I gave her just enough to let her know I wasn't guessing. I knew. Knowing the exact number of messages gave me a solid foothold. It made my case undeniable and showed her I wasn't bluffing. Her behavior fit the classic guilty script, dodging, deflecting, looking for ways to escape accountability. She tried to steer the conversation toward where she'd been instead of addressing what really mattered. That's when I learned something critical. When someone's lying, their stories usually sound vague and underdeveloped. If you press a little, they start falling apart. Take, for example, when she said she was out at a bar with friends. That's the kind of thing an innocent person would back up with real details. Like who was there, what they talked about, maybe even who won a round of darts or pool. But Rachel's explanation? It was all surface level. No depth. No specifics. Guilty people try to guess what an innocent version of themselves would say, then build a narrative around that. It's rehearsed. And it shows. Sometimes, they even create distractions to steer the spotlight. That's what happened with our oldest daughter. Rachel got into a weird disagreement with her and made herself the center of attention. Later, I found out there were two reasons behind that move. First, she wanted to control the narrative, in case our daughter came to me. And second, when guilty people take center stage, they think everyone will eventually stop watching. Looking back, I messed up by not digging deeper. I should have asked my daughter more questions. Asked her to spell out exactly what she meant and why she felt the way she did. I also should have just picked up the phone and called her directly. It's worth thinking about how an innocent spouse would act if they were wrongly accused. They'd be frustrated, maybe even annoyed by the request to see their phone, but in the end, they'd hand it over. They'd probably even give more detail than you asked for, because they've got nothing to hide. Honest people don't try to mislead. They don't scramble to cover their tracks. But the most convincing lies? They're always laced with pieces of truth. Rachel told me she'd gone to a tattoo parlor to get some sketches done. And sure, I believe she actually went there. But here's the thing, when she got back, she didn't bring home a single sketch. No pics. Nothing. Just a couple of ideas she pulled off the internet. She told me her appointment was at 1 p.m., but she left the house at 11:30. It only takes 45 minutes to get to that shop. She didn't walk back in until almost 6 p.m. Something wasn't adding up. I'm starting to think she might have stopped by his place before heading to the tattoo shop. Maybe they spent some time together, talked, had lunch, who knows. Could have even been something as ridiculous as sharing deep thoughts on philosophy over sandwiches. I also wondered if buying a ticket for a future visit was her way of setting up an alibi. She told me the traffic had been bad that day, but she didn't give any real details. Like, No mention of an overturned blue Honda or anything you'd expect if the traffic was really that awful. Then she said she stopped by Home Depot to look for some lifting belt rings, but came back empty-handed. Another story that didn't quite stick. There were other little red flags she gave off, things I picked up from a friend of mine who knows a bit about behavioral tells, but I can't remember them all clearly right now. I'll try to note them down when they come back to me. Anyway, she's still in contact with this guy. I've accepted that. As painful as it is, I've also come to terms with the fact that my anger issues probably had a role in all this. I'm working on that. I really am. Therapy, mindfulness, the whole bit. I've made some progress. And while Rachel never outright admitted to cheating, I've tried to keep my heart open. I'm willing to forgive if I played a part in driving her away. She told me flat out that our relationship doesn't have a future, but she offered cohabitation, for the kids' sake. Honestly, I don't trust the terms of that setup. It feels like a move driven more by fear than by any kind of reconciliation. So I told her, if divorce is what she really wants, I'd go along with it. But she hasn't brought it up again, which I'm taking as a quiet sign that she might not want that after all. There's even been moments lately that gave me hope. We went out to dinner with the kids not long ago. She smiled, kept eye contact, laughed at my jokes. For a moment, I felt like maybe the ice around her heart was starting to melt. But on the drive home, she slipped in this offhand remark, almost like she had to remind herself she didn't love me anymore. It stung. Bad. People love to say it's easy to leave a cheater. But when you've got kids together, when your life is wrapped up in shared routines and memories, the pain cuts deeper. The life I knew wasn't just mine, it was ours. Let anyone who thinks I'm being weak think they've won something. This morning, I woke up and Rachel was gone. I didn't need her to tell me where she was. I knew. I even know his address. I'd taken pictures before, of her truck, parked right there in his garage. Not sure what made me do it. Maybe I was just trying to make sense of her headspace. When I pulled up to their place that morning, only his car was out front. But then I spotted her truck, backed into the driveway. She didn't know I was there. A few minutes later, she texted me like everything was normal, asking if we needed anything for the house, like garbage bags. I played it cool. Told her we were low on groceries and asked if she could grab some cream while she was out. That's when I saw him drive away. And a few minutes later, her truck pulled out too. They were together. No question. I walked up to the door. Thought about ringing the bell. Instead, I messaged her, asked if she'd gotten a letter I'd mentioned earlier. She said she hadn't seen it, so I sent her the contents. She replied that we could talk about it later. Then, like clockwork, she sent a message saying she was at Costco. I fired back that I knew she wasn't there. About 45 minutes later, she sent a picture of a Costco. Not even trying to hide the fact that she'd gone there just to back up her story. I asked her to send a photo of her truck too, if she wanted me to believe her. She texted back, calm as ever, saying she didn't really care whether I believed her or not. And I had to admit, there was a weird honesty in that. Maybe she was trying to protect me from the full weight of the truth. Or maybe she was afraid of how I'd react. Either way, I felt a twinge of guilt. But the lies? The endless lies? They hurt worse than the truth ever could. She did end up sending a photo of herself inside Costco. I looked at it, and didn't respond. I let the silence do the talking. Inside, I was a mess. I've spent too many nights thinking about those moments where my anger pushed me to the edge, when I almost walked out on my wife and kids. I never want to go back to that version of myself. But now I think I'm ready to take a new path. One that gets me out of this emotional maze. Yesterday, I sat down with an attorney. We went over everything, facts, feelings, the state of things. My therapist had already warned me not to rush into decisions when my emotions were peaking, so I've been trying to be careful. Trying to wait it out. Think things through. Right now, Rachel, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and I are living in the same space. But everything's changed. Rachel and I are still living under the same roof, for the kids' sake. But it's far from easy. The emotional toll is heavy enough, but the financial weight? That's brutal. I'm shouldering the bulk of the household expenses while she carries on this thing with another man. What makes it worse is how she keeps a separate group chat with our kids. I found out she's been using it to spin these little fictions, like texting them that she's out drinking with someone named Maria at 4 a.m. It hit me that she had to be up for work in just a few hours, and there's not a bar in town open at that hour. The whole story was clearly made up. What really worries me, though, is the impact on our youngest. He's on the autism spectrum, high-functioning, incredibly sharp. He's always Googling stuff, like when different places open or close. He's starting to catch on to the lies. And if she can keep lying to me without facing any fallout, I'm scared of what message that sends to them. The damage isn't just between us anymore. It's creeping into the lives of our children. But after a few nights of quiet, I realized something. Her lies weren't keeping me up anymore. Not like they used to. I'd already had a sit-down with a lawyer, and he told me that if we go for shared custody, the alimony I'd owe would only be around $142 a month. That gave me some peace of mind. Rachel doesn't want to sell the house, but it's clear she can't afford to buy me out, and she definitely can't take it on a loan. My lawyer made it clear, if I decide to sell, it will be sold. That put me in a tricky spot, though. I've got a lot more saved up than she does, and I risk losing half of that in the split. There are still some investments and shares in my company that haven't matured yet. According to the lawyer, those can be protected because there's still legal ambiguity around them. On top of that, he suggested using the house as leverage in negotiations. If I agree to keep paying for half the mortgage until our kids are adults, about 5 more years, I might be able to hold on to an equal share of future assets. So, basically, this mess has turned into a real estate deal. My savings? My future? All being balanced on a spreadsheet. And emotionally? I'll admit it, I cracked under the pressure. Between the sleep deprivation and the constant grief, I lost my grip. I tried to reconcile with her. Begged even. I became a shell of the man I used to be, desperate, humiliated. 2 weeks ago, I hit a wall and had to leave work early. My mind was too scrambled to focus. I remember pulling into the driveway, hoping, just hoping, that maybe her car would still be there. That maybe, just maybe, there was still a flicker of something left in her heart for me. But there wasn't. I tried talking to her. I really tried. But she shut me down. Cold. It was pathetic, really. I felt like a fool begging for something that had already slipped through my fingers. That Sunday was empty. I had nowhere to be. I told her I wouldn't be back until work started again so she could spend time with the kids without me around. I bought them pizza and watched her leave again. I sat in my car, numb. Scrolling through forums, looking for something, anything, to pull me out of my spiral. That's when I downloaded Tinder. I wasn't looking for a hookup. I was just lost. I swiped left on every profile that stood out, like I was trying to prove to myself I didn't care. But then I started a conversation with someone. Nothing serious, just chatting. She didn't really catch my interest, but it felt normal. Then the next morning, after work, I came across another profile. On impulse, I swiped right. And she matched. She messaged first. "Hey, handsome." I swear, in that moment, I almost forgot what heartbreak felt like. I needed to hear those words more than I even realized. We started chatting, and it just flowed. No tension. No drama. Just honest, light conversation. We grabbed a couple of drinks together. And somehow, Tuesday night turned into a date. I'm not saying this thing will become something big, but for the first time in a long while, I felt something flicker back to life. I felt like I owed this new woman the truth. If anything was going to come out of this, it had to start with honesty. I told her everything, where I was at emotionally, what I'd been through. Starting something new with lies just wasn't an option for me. Turns out, she'd been through something similar. She'd been divorced for a while after dealing with infidelity too. Like me, She was finally open to dating again. When the evening ended, I walked her to her car and we shared a kiss. Nothing forced, nothing complicated, just a quiet, hopeful moment. I should mention, Rachel had already started the divorce paperwork by this point, so there was nothing legally tying us together anymore. And honestly, just thinking about this new woman, about the possibility of healing, of feeling wanted again, it gave me peace for the first time in a long while. That night, I actually slept through the night. No tossing, no anxiety. Just sleep. Maybe in some quiet act of mercy, the universe, or God, sent her into my life to remind me that I still deserve kindness. That I still matter. Even if nothing serious comes from it, I'll always be grateful for what she gave me in that short time, a glimpse of hope. Yeah, it's all happening fast. I know that. But the truth is, this marriage has been on shaky ground for years. The idea of divorce isn't new. It's been floating in my mind more than once. I just never acted on it. Looking back, I realize I never really fought to save the marriage. Her affair didn't start the breakdown, it just forced us to face what had been broken for a long time. It was probably necessary. We were both unhappy but too afraid to say it out loud. Too scared to take the first step away. Sometimes I wonder, if the roles were reversed, if I'd been tempted, would I have done the same thing? I always thought that fear of becoming unfaithful kept me cautious around other women. But maybe it was just that I never wanted to see myself as capable of betrayal. Those good memories we used to share, vacations, holidays, inside jokes, they feel so distant now. Like echoes from a life that belonged to someone else. It's like when you lose someone to a terminal illness, you start mourning before they're even gone, because the ending feels inevitable. Today, I made it official. I submitted a payment and formally began the divorce process. That means Rachel and I won't be living together much longer. My son and I are planning to move and become neighbors. He doesn't speak to his mom anymore, not since her affair came to light. I'm planning to sell the house and claim my fair share. Rachel doesn't want that, but she can't afford the mortgage. And she's not going to get enough in the settlement to buy me out, either. Filing the divorce cost me $2,500. It stung a little, but honestly, it was worth it. With my day trading profits growing, I've got my sights set on bigger investments, and one personal dream. I've always wanted a 1979 Fiat Spider convertible. I could never justify the purchase before, too impractical, too selfish for a married man with responsibilities. But now I'm free. When all this is behind me, I'm going to finally buy that car. And maybe, just maybe, I'll slap on that custom license plate I joked about with my lawyer. The one that says, "Damn, it feels good to be a gangster." Petty? Maybe. But I can't lie, it makes me smile. I wonder how Rachel will react when the official notice hits her desk. When she realizes I'm not bluffing. That I'm really selling the house. The irony is, we'll both walk away with enough to start over. She might move in with her family. I'll get back to building something new. Now she's returning her truck to the bank and texting me like we're old friends. I keep my replies short, or I don't respond at all. She sent me something about evaporative coolers at Home Depot the other day. It reminded me of that one winter when we tried to buy one and failed miserably. She also asked when I'd be home and said we'd be living in separate rooms now. Then she wished me fun at the water park. I'd planned a trip there with the kids. By the way, fellow single dads? Water parks after divorce? Turns out, they're crawling with single moms. Today, Rachel texted again, this time to say she'll be renting a truck. The monthly cost? $730. Which means our oldest won't have a reliable vehicle anymore. That thing had over 220,000 miles on it, but it ran. I won't lie. There's a strange comfort in seeing the consequences finally catching up to her. I had a long talk with my sister the other day, and she dropped some interesting, and honestly, pretty disturbing, info about the guy Rachel's been seeing. Turns out, this guy's got a history. According to her, he's been married 4 times already. 4. Each relationship followed the same pattern. he'd latch onto a woman, drain her financially, and then vanish without a trace. It might sound far-fetched, but I trust my sister. She passed it along not to stir things up, but to give me a clearer picture of what Rachel's gotten herself into. I told her, half joking but half serious, "If that's true, then I hope he ruins her quickly so we can just finish this divorce and move on." I meant it too. All I want now is to finalize the paperwork and be free of the mess. Interestingly enough, I ended up talking to Rachel about all this not long after. She told me she's planning to return the truck, something about refinancing the house. She can't afford to pay off the truck and take on a new mortgage, so it's either give up the vehicle or drown in debt. In a way, this actually lines up with my own plans. I'd already told her I wasn't going to stick around in a house where she could continue her affair freely. I was actively looking for a new place, and she knew that. I also told her I'd be willing to transfer the house into her name, but only if she bought me out. I've got other liquid assets she'll need to give up if she wants full ownership. It's a decent chunk of money, but still not what I'd consider a fair trade. That said, if it helps me make a clean break, I'll take the hit. I want to settle this while she's still being civil. The longer we're apart, the more likely she'll start thinking she doesn't owe me anything. That's just how people work. Emotions fade, memories get blurry, and the sense of fairness starts to disappear. She's not happy about losing access to my other assets, but I made it clear, she'll get the house. She can do whatever she wants with it. Keep it until the kids are grown, sell it, or even invite her boyfriend to move in. That part's not my concern anymore. Still, I'm not letting my guard down. Tomorrow's a big day. I'm buying a new home, and I've got a meeting with my lawyer to draw up the final documents. Anyone who's followed the last few months of my life knows how I got here. 19 years together, and it all unraveled after Rachel had an affair that I discovered back in March. At first, I went through all the usual motions, desperate, emotional, trying to fix something that was already broken. But after sitting down with a therapist, I realized something: my life could actually get better without her. So I found a rental just down the street. Close enough that our kids can come and go easily, without any hassle. To make things smoother, I even switched work shifts so I can handle school drop-offs and pickups more efficiently. I've already got the keys. The utilities are set up. The move's happening tomorrow. Financially, I'm in a good place. I'm fortunate that I can afford this transition without it wrecking me. I've also got a meeting set up with my lawyer to finalize the divorce paperwork. Rachel and I worked out most of the terms through email, so he'll use that agreement to create the final documents. If everything goes smoothly, we'll sign during the meeting and start the mandatory waiting period. If all stays on track, I should have the official divorce decree by late June or early July. It's not as much closure as I wanted, but it's enough. And honestly, the mental peace is worth far more than any financial win. Work-wise, I've still got a few restricted shares in the company. They haven't vested yet, but they will. Our agreement states that Rachel waives any claim to those shares, which was a relief. If I stay in my current role, those shares could turn out to be very valuable. Between that, the support I get from my employer, like 30 days of paid leave and short-term disability, I see no reason to walk away. This entire experience has actually made me more loyal to the company than ever. And luckily, Rachel's job pays well enough to keep her comfortably above the poverty line. So at least I won't be on the hook for excessive support. Thankfully, I'm not obligated to pay spousal support. With shared custody of the kids and me covering their medical, dental, and vision insurance, the alimony works out to just $142 a month, and only for under 5 years. We're even talking about waiving that entirely. Looking ahead, I've got a real plan. In 5 years, once the kids are grown, I'll have enough saved to retire abroad. I'll be 47. No more grinding it out in the US until I'm 70. That realization changed everything. While I was stuck in that marriage, I poured money into big homes and useless stuff I didn't care about, just to feel like something was working. But now, living oceans apart from my soon-to-be ex-wife? That distance is a blessing I never saw coming. Yes, my heart's been shattered. But I refuse to let that define me or poison what's left of my capacity to love. I still believe someone's out there, someone who'll value me, love me the way I deserve. And when that person comes along, I'll be ready to take that risk again. Love and hope don't just vanish because someone betrayed you. They live on. There's a quote that's helped me through all of this. However, we do not look back for a long time. We continue to move forward, opening new doors and embracing new experiences. Our curiosity propels us onto uncharted paths. That line reminded me not to get stuck in the past. Life keeps moving. And so will I. Right now, I'm doing just that, moving forward. Fulfilling my own wish list. In just a few hours, I'll be boarding a plane. July is my month of self-discovery, and I've got a trip planned to Thailand. It's time to rediscover the parts of myself I let fade. Time to chase new experiences and build something new, something better. These days, when Rachel texts me, I respond when I feel like it. Sometimes not for days. The divorce is still working its way through the system, but I'm keeping things on track, making sure everything's progressing. The financial and property stuff is already settled. Now it's just custody and the last of the alimony details. My lawyer advised me to push back on her latest ridiculous proposal. It wouldn't fly in court anyway. So we submitted one of our own. Our boys are old enough now to have a say in where they want to live. I've made sure my new place is within walking distance of Rachel's so they can move freely between us. Funny thing is, as soon as I moved out, she went ahead and moved her boyfriend into a new place. If that used to bother me, now I just find it laughable. Like a bad TV trope. And about that trip? I'm not going alone. There's someone new in my life, a woman who's brought a calm I haven't felt in years. The thing keeping me up at night now isn't heartbreak, it's the 14-hour time difference between us. For anyone still in the middle of the chaos, I've got one piece of advice: don't quit. No matter how painful it gets, keep moving. Forward is the only direction that counts. After a long and grueling process, I can finally say it: my divorce is finalized. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fair. And the outcome, especially when it came to custody and alimony, wasn't everything I hoped for. But I went in prepared, knowing that the ideal outcome only exists in theory. I still managed to work out a better arrangement with Rachel regarding alimony, something that'll help me give our teenage boys the life they deserve. I managed to talk Rachel into putting half of the alimony toward our boys' college savings. They're teens now, almost grown, so when she suggested that they just spend weekends with us based on their own preference, I agreed. They're old enough to decide. With only a few major details left to iron out, the custody agreement now includes her being responsible for getting the kids to and from school. That change opened up a new opportunity for me. I was able to land a travel-based role at work, which gives me the chance to rack up about 15 hours of overtime each week. That extra cash helps cover groceries, and thankfully it doesn't impact the alimony calculation in our state. I also made some adjustments to my work insurance policy, cut Rachel out as a beneficiary. That change alone saves me a chunk of money each month. Honestly, the health insurance coverage she gets from her job might end up being worth more than the alimony payments anyway. Recently, I heard she's been dealing with some medical issues, something to do with breast cysts. It's a sad situation, but I won't pretend it didn't feel like a dose of poetic justice. She stepped outside our marriage, broke our trust, and now she's facing real consequences. I know that sounds harsh, but I'm just being honest. To protect my future, I updated my life insurance as well, made sure she can't benefit from it anymore. A few days ago, we crossed paths when I was covering a medical expense for one of our boys. It surprised me how indifferent I felt. No anger. No sadness. Just nothing. That's how I know I'm healing. I'm trying to live a life that's free from negativity, focused on positivity and progress. And for anyone just beginning this road, here's what I'd say: don't lose hope. It's hell at first, but there's light at the end. You'll get there. I won't sugarcoat it. I wasn't proud of how I acted at the start. I begged. Pleaded. I lost my sense of self-worth. Took time off work. I was a wreck. But I made it through. And if I can, anyone can. Lately, it feels like karma's finally making her rounds. Rachel lost her job. Ironically, the same job where she first met her affair partner. With her track record, destroying past marriages, getting involved with coworkers, it's no surprise it caught up to her. Turns out, this wasn't even her first affair. She had two. And the guy she was seeing? Yeah, he was married too. Then came another blow. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. She's going through treatment now. No job. No stable income. And then, to top it all off, I found out her so-called boyfriend convinced her to sell the house and took off with the money. Now the kids tell me she's having a breakdown. Emotionally, financially, she's falling apart. I wish I could say I felt sorry for her. But the truth is, she chose this path. She made her decisions. While she's unraveling, I'm building something new, something better. I'm in a relationship with a woman who actually values me. Who loves me. And that's something I never thought I'd find again.